This is David Kaye, and you're watching Madman's Beast Wars Transformers. Don't move. There's lots more, yes, where this came from. I was the class clown, of course, in school, and got me into a lot of trouble. And one day down the road, I thought, hey, I can make money doing that. So, long story short, I auditioned. I was in radio at the time in Vancouver, Canada, and I took a commercial modeling course. The modeling part was kind of goofy. I mean, if you had one eye and you had a limp, you know, hey, you'd make a great model, you know, kind of spend the money and kind of. And it was just kind of goofy, but the commercial part of it, you know, learning lines and doing commercials was kind of cool. So at the time, my teacher said he was a fledgling agent, and said, "Would you like to, you know, be a client?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Can you do voices and stuff?" I said, "Yeah." You know, I lied and said, "Yeah." And he called me about a week later and said, "I have this audition for G.I. Joe. You said you can do voices." And I had no idea what to do or what to expect. So I showed up for the audition, and I read a few parts, and the director said, "Here, try this guy." And it was General Hawk, and I did this, you know, quick follow me toward the danger type stuff. And 6 weeks later, I was skiing on a local mountain. I'd lost my keys on the hill, and I had a callback that day. And if I was late, I wouldn't have made the audition. I wouldn't have been cast. But lo and behold, someone saw them on the hill. How in the world they found them in the snow is beyond me. But they were coming down on the tram as I was making frantic phone calls, and I got the keys, made it in time, 10 minutes to spare. I did the callback, and I got the part. And that sort of started the whole cartoon thing. I was on a commercial shoot at the time. And I was wearing a very ugly red jacket and didn't really want to be there, and they weren't going to release me for the callback for this cartoon, and I was being read for Optimus Prime and Megatron, who I wanted the main characters. I didn't care who I got, but I was leading toward the bad guy because I like bad characters, and I snuck off set, which is a real big no-no. And I went and made the callback and got back, and it's like, hey, yeah, so we shooting yet? Oh no, they don't get to you for hours. So nobody missed me, and the commercial was forgettable, but the cartoon continues to live on. I guess it was some directors I'd worked with. Well, I worked with Wally Burr a few times on G.I. Joe, and I learned a lot from Wally just being in the room. He's a legend. And from Sue Blue, who directed Beast Wars, learned a lot just by being there and doing. And it's basically playing. It's being a kid and screwing around with your voice, and any chance you get. Learning characters. If you see a picture of a character or a description of a character, start coming up with a, you know, if he's old, you kind of, you know, start getting very old. It depends on how old he is. And if he's big, you know, he has a bigger voice. And I learned a lot from, you know, people like Scotty McNeil and Gary Chalk and Ian Corlett, not like people that I work with. You take things from them. I like Willows, who's I think he was my favorite character in the show. And the body language takes on this whole, you know, this, and he just freaked everybody out. And so you take things from everyone, and you don't let your, you don't let yourself get in the way, and then whatever happens, happens. In particular, theater, I think it allows you to play and not be afraid to express yourself vocally, and I think it's important for anybody that's getting into voice acting is to take theater classes, community theater, get involved somehow, so you have an idea, because it all goes way back to storytelling, the ancient Greeks and, you know, Shakespeare. It's all from the same root, and the trick is to be able to pull the words off the page and make them real. They can't sound like they're being, you know, echted or spoken from a page. It has to be organic, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it has helped. Actually, probably the cartoon stuff has also helped me on camera, because I know from behind the mic, I know if I'm sucking or it's working or I have to change or alter. When I'm in front of the camera, I'm technically pretty good, but I'm never quite sure what it is that I've done or I'm doing. So I have to rely on instinct. And I think it's getting better. Although I don't do it as much as I'd like to, but voice is where it's at for me, and I know my realm. So, but it all helps. It has to be Megatron because there's a lot of in all of us. We have different personalities, and we're all every day trying to figure out who it is that we are. And this guy, the way that Larry and Bob and the other, in particular, and the other writers have captured him, it doesn't seem like work to me. It just kind of happens, and that's a sign of a character that's something in here that's real comfortable. I don't want to take over the world. Well, sometimes I don't. But it's just his mannerisms, and he has a lot of layers, and that's me. There's a lot of things that make up this person, and I think that comes through with Megs. He's my favorite. The cast. There's been some great times in studio, and it. When we audition for parts and roles, it's not the fact that we're not going to get a paycheck, or I'm on it's an ego thing. It is great, but first and foremost for me and a lot of us, in particular in that particular cast and the group that I work with a lot, it's fun to go to work every day and see them and to hang out with them. The last thing on my mind when I showed up for a gig, and Gary, hey Gary, and Scott, and Alec, and all of them, and Venus is going out and hanging with them for a day, and it is awesome, and it was awesome. So anytime you get to hang with your friends and your peers and screw around behind a microphone and come up with some goofy voices and play, it's pretty sweet. Very lucky. Good cast, excellent cast. Probably the best I've worked with in all of them is that cast of Beast Wars. Venus was phenomenal because I'd be sitting over here, me and Jim Burns, who played Inferno, stop calling me that, I'm not your queen. And Jim is as full of the dirtiest jokes in the world, and he always comes in. The first thing, say, hey, he doesn't say like, hey Jim, how you doing? All right, Dave. It's more like, hey, do you know one about that? Beep, 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 beep. Can't hear that on a DVD, Jim. But, between that and then somebody goofing off across the room, which would be Gary and Ian, and Venus I'd look at her and she'd look at me, and then it would be like, and it'd start, and then you couldn't stop, and there'd be times when we just, Sue Blue in the booth is going crazy. Okay, guys, okay, that's good. And we'd have to break and take it easy. There's a lot of that going on. It's much like kindergarten, preschool, where you're throwing spitballs at people and throwing things and looking away. And I mean, it was just a great atmosphere. Okay. Well, I never quite understood the roller skates. Megatron, he was gliding at some episode. I thought, what was that? Is he roller skates on? Although it was kind of cool. The Beast Wars Megatron was my favorite because I remember the first episode that Mainframe brought in cameras, and they filmed us doing our little thing, and at one point I did this, Commander Rat Trap, yes, with the hand, and it shows up on TV. They had captured our little nuances, and he was my favorite because there was lots of humor. Bob Forward and Larry Detail, the way they wrote, it reminded me of the old Spider-Man comics where they had this sense of humor, and I couldn't help laughing out loud sometimes, and it just worked. As it got a little darker, I didn't mind that. I don't mind things that are a little dark and brooding. The humor kind of got out of it, but it's still tons of fun to do. When it got into the Energon and Cybertron series, I think it's still probably running or wrapping up. We only went in one at a time in those series because we were looping it, and it wasn't as much fun, to be honest, because I never really saw anybody, You go into your lines, 3 beeps, beep, 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 you know, oh yes, you know, I could barely get a yes in because they only had so much time to fit the English into the little flap. So there wasn't a lot of creative juices flowing. You kind of went in, did your thing, and left. So totally different thing, and which makes me just ache to do this ensemble thing again. Yeah, I am and I'm not. I am because it's something I'm actually involved in, which is a phenomenon which I never really think that's kind of, kind of weird. But because of things like Star Trek and Babylon 5 and all the series that have been going on, have fans, a fan base. It's not a surprise that this does. But the fans are extremely loyal. I really didn't have too much knowledge of the G1 series. I remember as a kid kind of watching it and I never really, I didn't really know too much about it. It wasn't until well into that I realized that Frank Welker, who was a hero of mine, it's like, oh my God, it's Frank Welker. So big shoes to fill, etc., etc. And the fans will let you, know that there's the G1 fans and then there's but I think they realized the Beast Wars series was kind of special, and they forgave us all. But we went in blind. We had no idea what we were doing for the most part, all of us, and didn't have any preconceptions. So the fact that it's gone on this long is amazing, and I think it will continue to do so. Because I mean, who doesn't love the toys? It's about the toys, Oh yeah, I have some toys. I have too many toys. My favorite's the dinosaur. The new, the old, what is it now? The old new one with the dinosaur head and the Tyrannosaurus and everything. That's my favorite. I mean, I collect toys. I have some old Mork and Mindy stuff. Welcome Back Kotter dolls in the box, and Iron Man, who's my favorite hero. Who I got to play in the Marvel game from EA, Marvel Nemesis, and also I got cast as his character in Fantastic Four. Is a dream come true because I still have the old Mego in the box from 1970 or 60, whatever it was, and it's so when you get the chance to play the characters you have as toys in a box at home, and it's pretty cool. But I do have to get rid of some because I'm getting some grief about that right now. Not enough, covered space. The yes thing, now Bob and Larry may correct me on this. I'm not sure if there was a yes in the script, but I did do this, I remember doing this thing, Commander Raptrap, yes. And Subaru said, oh, David, that's great. Oh, yeah, try that again. And so it became this sort of, yes, excellent, and then there was a chance to do the no as another part of it. It was just sort of his thing. He makes a point, and because I made the character, a bit like a lizard, and Anthony Hopkins and Sean Connery, it has this. It called for something, and it had to be sort of slimy in a way, and so the hand motion and the yes, excellent, this thing it's his moniker and his saying. It just seemed to kind of happen, and so it could have been a yes on a page. I could have come up with it, but all of us kind of, made the decision. Oh, let's go with that. So I may have actually had a moment of brilliance. I don't know. It was just so pompous. And always right. I guess he just liked to pontificate, give him a stage or a cliff, and let him go. He was very Shakespearean, which actually comes out in one of the big episodes. Scott does the whole thing with Dinobot. It's all very Shakespearean, and I'm a big fan of that. And that has a lot to do with the writers, the whole Bob and Larry thing. I mean, so a bit of Shakespeare, and it just seemed to work. Frank did his own thing, the guy's a legend, man. I'm Dave Kaye, and he's Frank Welker. So I just did what I thought, would get me the job, to begin with, and then you kind of start playing around with them, and that's all. You make it your own. It's an old acting saying, but there it is. No, I couldn't see. It's one of those things, I couldn't see anybody else doing Optimus but Gary. I just couldn't. And Gary looked like the big monkey, so so I couldn't. And he's just, that's his character. He's great. Well, I like the first one, but I gotta admit, when they showed us a bit of the rendering in the animation, when the transmetals happen, it's like everybody was, whoa, hey, shiny and new. Ooh, when you see something shiny, it's kind of shiny and cool, new. But when I look back, I do like the original Megatron. I also I kind of dug when Megatron in the Beast Machine series, it kind of Noble, the wolf. I kind of dug that. That was kind of cool to me. I didn't mind the that whole who Noble was, and the wolf and the thing, and that mysterious evil thing going on. I kind of like that too. Yeah, it was just. I'm a fan. I don't mind the dark stuff now and again. I think it went a completely different way than what the show was, and when they said, there's no more, really not more. He's no more humor now. With I kind of okay, well I can make it work, but it wasn't the same without the little, rubber ducky thing, and and stop calling me queen and all of that. I did miss that. But I like the dark stuff again. It's kind of fun. Well, the first one is when the two groups are on each side, the Preds and the Maximals, and said, Commando Rat Trap, what a pleasant surprise, and something about shall avail you not, no, and he goes into this thing, and also I think Scott's favorite saying, and one of my favorite sayings that Megatron has always been the simple term side guns. Out come the whoosh. Oh, that's cool. The whole thing. And I used to do that watching it cartoons on Saturday morning with my son, and we'd do the whole side guns. He'd smile at me, or he'd run under the table. Either one. I have scared a few children actually by using the Megatron voice. Well, those are my two little favorite moments. There's a ton, the golden disc moment, the big speech, but it's the little short putts that, that I remember.